Good morning, one and all. I am very much thankful to the organizing committee of 7-day National Virtual Short-Term Program on Fundamentals of Educational Research, organized by Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, Research and Development Center, and the Internal Quality Assurance Cell in collaboration with the Sri Sarada College of Education. Today we are discussing the topic Qualitative Paradigm of Research. What is research? Let's take one of the American sociologist Earl Barbee definition of the research. Research is a systematic inquiry to describe, explain, predict, and to control the observed phenomena. Research involves inductive and deductive methods. There are three approaches to research: qualitative approach, quantitative approach, and the mixed method approach. The qualitative approach, any kind of the research that produces findings which is not arrived from the statistical procedure. Quantitative approach, a formal, objective, systematic process in which numerical data are utilized to obtain information about the world. And the mixed method approach, it is a mix of qualitative and the quantitative research. So what is qualitative approach of the research? The qualitative approach of the research, here I take two definitions. The first, a form of social inquiry that focuses on the way people interpret and make sense of their experiences and the world in which they live. According to the Stress and the Corbin, any kind of research that produces findings not arrived at by means of statistical procedure or other means of quantification. The qualitative research is also known as the constructivist approach, because in the qualitative research we have to construct new theories, new paradigms. It is also known as the naturalistic approach because the data is collected in a natural setting. And it is also called as the interpretive approach because whatever the data is collected, you have to interpret that textual data. That's why it is an interpretive approach. This qualitative research paradigm involves using various descriptions to portray, to understand, or to explain the case studies and the various stories, rather than using statistical and the experiments. The qualitative paradigm is used when the researcher wants to study human beings in their own social environment and how they make sense of their roles and the structure. Some of its various research methods: the narrative study, ethnographic study, phenomenological study, grounded study, and the case study. The aim of the qualitative research is to offer a perspective of situation and provide well-written research reports that reflect the researcher's ability to illustrate or describe the corresponding phenomena. The way of qualitative research is written will depend on the approach chosen by the researchers. But no matter what the research, all qualitative research has a tendency to follow the basic process like the introduction, questions, methods of data collection, analysis of data, and so on. The nature of qualitative research: The qualitative research is situated activity that locates the observer in the world. It answers the questions from the participants in the context of your step. It consists of a set of interpretive material practices that makes the world visible. These practices transform the world. They turn the world into a series of representations, including field notes, interviews, conversations, photographs, recordings, and the memos. The qualitative research involves an interpretive and naturalistic approach to the world. Means that the qualitative paradigm of research, in the qualitative paradigm of research, the researchers study things in their natural settings, attempt to make sense of or interpret phenomena in terms of the meanings people bring to them. Characteristics of qualitative research. The qualitative research, the researcher collects the data from the field in a natural setting. At the site, by actually talking directly to the people about their experiences of the issues or whatever the problems and taken under study. The researcher have a face-to-face interaction with the people over a period of time. Researcher as a key instrument, qualitative researcher, in the qualitative research, the researcher do not rely on questionnaires or instruments developed by someone or the data collected by the someone. The collected data, they collected data themselves by examining various documents, observing the behavior and interviewing the participants. Multiple sources of data. The researcher gather data from multiple sources such as interviews, observation, documents, and so on. After reviewing the data, they make sense of it, organize it into categories or themes. Inductive data analysis. The researcher build their patterns, categories, or themes from the bottom moving up. This process involves moving from themes to the database and back till they can establish a comprehensive set of themes. Participants' meaning. In this research process, the researcher focuses on the meanings the participants have about the problem or the issue, not their own meaning. In emergent design, the initial plan for the research process cannot be tightly followed. The phases of the process may change after the researcher goes to the field and collects data. The most important idea is to learn about the problem or issue from the participants and address the research to obtain that information. Then theoretical lens, the researcher very often use a lens to view their study. The study may focus on the concept of culture or any social issues or any political issues and so on. Interpretive inquiry, this is a form of inquiry in which the researcher interprets what they see, what they heard, what they understand. By doing so, multiple views of the problem emerge. Then holistic account, the researcher try to identify the complex interactions of the many factors involved in a situation. Types of qualitative research: the narrative research, phenomenological research, grounded theory research, ethnographic study, case study, and the historical research. Narrative research means a vital human activity which structures experiences and give it meaning. Phenomenology, it describes the structure of experiences as they present themselves to consciousness without recourse to theory, deductions, or assumptions from other disciplines. Grounded theory, theory is developed inductively from a corpus of data acquired by a participant observer. Ethnography, it focuses on the sociological meanings through close field observation of socio-cultural phenomena. Typically, the ethnographer focuses on a community. Case study, it attempts to shed light on a phenomena by studying in depth a single case. Historical research is a systematic collection and objective evaluation of data related to past occurrence in order to test hypotheses concerning causes, effects, or the trends of these events that may help to explain present events and anticipate future events. Let's take the narrative research in detail. According to the Creswell, narrative as a word given to any text or dialogue, which may be used within the context of the inquiry. According to Zaminia Vaska, a narrative research is understood as a spoken or written text giving account of an event or an action or series of events and action chronologically connected. Narrative research is also defined as a vital human activity which structures experience and gives it meaning. The process and the product, features of narratives, and the mode of inquiry differentiate them from each other. Narrative can be seen as a way of structuring and organizing new experiences and knowledge by constructing knowledge and making it more learnable. Studying narratives is a way of studying the ways human experiences the world. It is gradually used in studies of education. Teachers and the learners are the main storytellers or the touchstone in the education. They are the storytellers in their own and the other stories. Narrative inquiry is both phenomena as well as the method, where the people tell their stories. It explains such experiences by collecting series and writing narration of them. It provides an opportunity to the researcher access to the personal experiences of the participants. The storyteller speaks and declares life as experience in a narrative form. That is called as the story. Thus, the researcher has an opportunity to study the subject in their natural settings and understand the behavior, action, and feeling in a whole context. There are two approaches of narrative research: the analysis of narratives and the narrative analysis. The analysis of narratives uses either paradigm thinking to describe themes across stories or taxonomies of different kinds of stories. In narrative analysis, the researcher gathers description of different events or happenings and set them into a story that use a plot line. The narrative inquiry uses stories to understand social pattern, stories from the participants, and stories created by researcher from the information they gather from participants are at the heart of narrative inquiry. The biographical study, autobiographical study, or a life study are the example of the narrative studies. Procedure for conducting narrative research. For the conducting the narrative research, the following procedure will be used. The first is the captured stories. Since narrative research capture detailed stories or the life experiences of a person or a small group, does the research problem or the question fit in that method? Sampling technique: select one or more individuals who can tell the stories or life experiences that will give the researcher a better understanding of the research problem or questions. Data collection techniques: the researcher should spend a considerable amount of time gathering the stories or information through various means. Is called the stories as filled text. These stories are then recorded by the researcher in the form of journal or in the form of diary or the researcher can observe the individual understudy and record their field notes. Letters sent by individuals gathering stories about their official documents, correspondence, memos, photographs, memory boxes, and the researcher carefully examining these sources of data makes a record of the life experiences of the individual and the researcher also need to place these individual stories within a context such as their personal experiences in the jobs or the culture or any historical perspective of the time and the place. Data analysis, the researcher must analyze the individual stories and restoring them into a framework. The process of restoring is to reorganize the stories or data collected within a general framework. The framework can consist of collecting the stories and segregating them into a key elements of the story, such as time, place, plot, and the scene. The researcher then rewrites the stories, placing them chronologically. This process of restoring also provides the researcher with an opportunity to bring out casual link among the individual ideas. Collaborating the story explained or situated in a time like past, present, and the future. Collaborating with the participants, the narrative research, the researcher actively collaborate with the participants by involving them in the research. During the process of data collection, the researcher negotiate relationship, smooth transition, and provide ways to be useful to the participants. The key elements is that to understand the relationship between the researcher and the participants and the process in which both the parties will learn and change during their interaction. Let's take one of the example for the narrative research. For example, the Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar's thoughts on education in present situation. Now you have to make various stories or use the taglines. Taglines like the Atmanirbhar Bharat or Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. Or you can take the various kinds of education. That is the primary education, secondary education, and the higher education. Means what are the views of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar on that particular education. Suppose we have to take the higher education. Then what are the views of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar on higher education? So in the narrative research, that is the direct view. So take the direct view of Baba Sahib Ambedkar from their writing and the speeches. That is the origin, direct view of Baba Sahib Ambedkar on education, higher education. Okay. Then secondly, choose the person, those who are closely related to that thought of Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar, or the person having the readings on the writing and the speeches of Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Now take that person as a participant for the narrative research. Then what are the views, his or her views on that thoughts on education? And as a researchers, what are your experiences? What are your views? So you have to share your experiences and views. So whatever the text or the sentence made by the participants, first, that is the original view. Second is the text or the statements written by the participants. And third, your experiences. And then make a story. So this is the one of the example of narrative research. Let's take another example. The Varda education system by Mahatma Gandhi. The use of Varda education system in the present situation. As we know, Varda education system is also known as the Naitali, and the government of India takes various initiatives for the Naitali. Then, what is the original Varda education system or Varda scheme of education? Read that scheme, take the participants' view about the Varda education system, share your experiences, means the original Varda education system, the views of the participants on Varda education system, your views and your experiences on this Naitalim or Varda education system, and make the stories. So this is the example of narrative research. Then second one is the phenomenology. Phenomenology, the Edmund Husserl is the founder of phenomenology. Basically, he is the mathematician. According to Edmund Husserl, phenomenology refers to description of one or more individual consciousness and experience of a phenomenon. Finlay, it starts with concrete description of life situation, often first person accounts set down in everyday language and avoiding abstract intellectual generalization. Then according to Creswell, phenomenology is an approach to qualitative research that focuses on the commonality of a live experiences within a particular group. The fundamental goal of the approach is to arrive at a description of the nature of a particular phenomenon. The primary aim of the phenomenological study is to explicate the meaning, structure, and the essence of live experiences of a person or the group of people around a specific phenomenon. The purpose of phenomenological research is to illuminate the specific, to identify phenomena through how they are pursued by the actors in a situation. Means in phenomenological research, number one, phenomena is important. Then the perceived experience is important. Whose perceived experience? The participant perceived experience is important. Means how to perceive the experiences, what are the effects of experiences on our own life, and how to use these experiences. Now, every person have their own perception about the phenomena or the events, and the perception is different according to our experiences. Phenomenological studies the structure of various types of experiences from the perception, thought, memory, imagination, emotions, desire, violation to bodily awareness. Phenomenology studies how to perceive the experiences, let's take the key concept in phenomenological research. Phenomenology focuses on the commonality of live experiences within a particular group. The fundamental goal of the research is to arrive at a description of the nature and the particular phenomenon. And the primary goal of phenomenological study is to explicate the meaning, structure, and essence of the live experiences of a person or a group of people around a specific phenomenon. Phenomenological approaches are based in a paradigm of personal knowledge and subjectivity and emphasize the importance of personal perspectives and interpretation. Phenomenologies help us to understand the meaning of people's life experiences. It explores what people experienced and focuses on their experience of the phenomena. Let's take the example of the phenomenological study. It's my own researcher done the study on phenomenological research. The effective, actually it's a mixed method research. In that, in the qualitative part, we have to select the phenomenology study. The effectiveness of a cyberbullying sensitization program for enhancing sensitivity towards cyberbullying among secondary school students. In that, the phenomenology, the phenomena he used to explore deep into the experiences of the students who were participating in the cyberbullying sensitization program and to ascertain its effectiveness. Now, another example, it's a mind example because I am the researcher. I have taken the research, the investigating the impact of girls' hostel life. Here, we take the focus group interview. What is the focus group interview? In that, for this study, we want to study the impact of girls' hostel. What is the impact of infrastructure of the hostels on the hostelers' life? What is the impact of administration process on the life of the girls, those who are residing in the hostels? So we are taking the focus, we are taken the focus group interview, club the 4 girls in one of the group, and from that group we are taken the data from that group. The group give the information in the form of text or the statements. Then after that we create the cluster of the groups in the form of the cluster, that one is the infrastructure of the hostel, another is the behavior of the administrative staff, third one the admission process of the hostel, and fourth one as the overall experiences about the hostel. Then we collect the information from the hostelers in the form of clusters and share my experiences, because I am the researcher as well as I am the administrative staff of that hostel. So I have the various experiences about the hostelers, and the hostelers have the experiences about the hostel. Now, whatever the statement or the key points, through that information and shared my views also, and then make the investigation about the impact of girls' hostel life. There are the various types of the phenomenology. Let's discuss very shortly. The realistic phenomenology, it studies about the universal essence of various sort of matters and structure of consciousness, and not somehow brought into being by consciousness. Existential phenomenology, it studies concrete human existence, including our experiences of free choice or action in concrete situation. Third one, hermeneutical phenomenology, it studies about interpretive structure of the experiences. The issue addressed in this include simply all of those that were added to the agenda into previous tendencies and stages. Transcendental phenomenology, it studies how objects are constituted in pure of transcendental consciousness, setting aside questions of any relations to the natural world around us. Naturalistic phenomenology, it studies how consciousness constitution or takes things in the world of nature, assuming with natural attitude that consciousness are a part of nature. Genetic phenomenology, it studies the genesis of meaning of things within one's own stream of experience. And the last, generative historical phenomenology, studies how meaning is found in our experiences. It generated in historical process of collective experiences over time. Then what are the characteristics of phenomenology? Holistic approach means complete description of human experiences, taking the individual's own perspectives. Then phenomenological method, it focuses on individual experiences of the world, focus on interpretation of the event. Then research purpose, to describe one or more individual experience of a phenomenon. Then what are the steps conducting phenomenological research? Building up the data from first and the second research. Data analysis, go through the data that adopted from the interviews, highlights the significant statements or quotes that obtained from the data, develop cluster of meaning from these significant statements into the themes. Researchers also write about their own experiences and situations that have influence of their experiences. From the structural and textual description, the researcher then writes a composite description that presents the essence of the phenomenon. And all these steps are already discussed in our exam. The next one is the grounded theory. Grounded theory, according to the Strauss and the Copin, grounded theory is a general methodology for developing theory that is grounded in data systematically gathered and analyzed. Grounded theory is a specific methodology developed by Glaser and Strauss for the purpose of building theory from data. The grounded theory design is a systematic qualitative procedure used to generate a theory that explains at a broad conceptual level a process, an action, or an interaction about a substantive topic. The phrase grounded theory refers to theory that is developed inductively from the corpus of data. The two sociologists, Glaser and the Strauss, developed grounded theory in late 1960s, and they published the book The Discovery of Grounded Theory in 1967 and explained the details of grounded theory procedure. Approaches to grounded theory. There are two popular approaches to the grounded theory research. One is the systematic approach and other is the constructivist approach. In the systematic approach, the researcher systematically develops a theory explaining the process, action, and interpretation of a topic. The researcher conducts the interviews on the field to collect data, to saturate the categories. These interview data is information that adds to previous data until no more data can be found, while the researcher collects the information. He or she begins the analysis. And the second category of grounded research theory is one advocated by CALMS, the constructive approaches, social constructive perspectives, stress on the diverse local worlds, multiple realities, and the complexities of particular worlds, views, and action. Conducting a grounded theory research. Data collection, rather than beginning by researching and developing a hypothesis, the first step is data collection through various variety of methods. From the data collected, the key points are marked with the series of codes which are extracted from the codes. The codes are grouped into a similar concept in order to make them more workable. From these concepts, categorization are formed which are basis of the creation of the theory. Now we take one of the example for the grounded theory. Now in the grounded theory, the action, interaction are important. Now let's take one of the example. The effective communication is the essential leadership skill. Now this is the theory developed after the research. Now this is the theory. So I will provide first the theory. So how to develop this theory? Suppose some peoples provide a specific institution for the admission of engineering. Now why the people prefer that specific institution? So there are the questions why they are preferring that institution. So we are taking the views from the parents and the students why they are prefer the institution. Number one, on the basis of infrastructure, because the very good the institutes provide very good infrastructure. Very good infrastructure means they have a good classroom along with the technologies or a smart board or whiteboard or computer. So according to the modern classroom, so that institute provide the good infrastructure. Then second one is the hospitality at the time of admission process. Means they create a group for the name as help desk. Now the parent have any difficulty in the admission process or what is the admission process in that institute, the help desks are help to the parents or the students. And at the time of help, their skill is very good. Very good means they communicate very softly spoken. They understand the people's issue. They understand the view of the peoples or the parents and the students, and they provide the help. Not only from the help desk, but each and every person in that institute have a very good communication skills. Means whoever you meet, or or the parent ask the problem about the admission process. So anybody can, you have to ask, so they reply in a very good manner. Then thirdly, the teaching staff. The institute provide a quality teaching staff. Then second, the strategies of the teaching and learning. So the institute provide various new technology or the new strategies according to the learners. So these are the information, and you have to categorize this information. You have to find out the key points from that information, code it, and that code grouped into a similar concept like infrastructure, hospitality, management behavior in this manner, and the concept categorize and lastly form the theory. Means whatever the data collected from the parents as well as the student and the some staff of that institute in a textual form. So take that data and categorize it and analyze it in a particular manner and form the theory. So that is, so you form the theory. The effective communication skill is the essential leadership skill. When we need grounded theory research, number one, when we need a broad theory or explanation of the process. Present theory is inadequate. Especially useful when current theories about phenomena are in adequate manner or non-existent. So that time we need the grounded theory. Then we want to form the new concept or the theory. So we wish to study some process. That time we require the grounded study research. And here I mention a small model for the qualitative research design. These are the factors, key components of the qualitative research design. The first, philosophical assumptions, the research methods, data collection techniques, data analysis approach, and lastly, the written record. The philosophical assumptions, the Creswell says that the philosophical assumptions to worldviews and through a theoretical lens and on the procedure involved in studying social or the human problems. Means in philosophical assumption, are you testing one or more hypotheses or your research questions? The interpretive research, are you exploring a research topic or a theory? You want to explore the previous theory or you want to make a new theory. Then critical research, are to seeking to critique the status quo or help to emancipate people in the way. Then research method. A research method is a strategy of inquiry. Then how are you going to find about the social world? Which research method you have to use, like action research, case study, ethnography, grounded theory, narratives, whatever it is. And each can use any set of philosophical assumptions. Data collection techniques, in which data collection will you use like interviews, participant observation, field work, and the document analysis, and so on. Then data analysis approach. There are the many ways to analyze qualitative data: coding, content analysis, discourse analysis, hermeneutics, semiotics, and the narrative analysis. Written record. After studying, you are writing a thesis or writing a book or a book chapter or a conference paper or a journal articles. So there are the different ways to written record. The process of writing up is just as important as doing the research itself. So this is the format of the research design. And the components of research proposal, qualitative research proposal: your title, your abstract, introduction, literature review, specific title, then theoretical framework, your research method, qualitative data analysis approach, timeline to completion, and the list of references. And qualitative research, sampling in qualitative research, it is the criterion-based selection, probably the non-probability sampling, the purposeful sampling will be used in the qualitative paradigm of research. And in-depth interviews, participants' observation, document analysis, and focus group interviews are the qualitative data collections methods. So thank you very much for listening my session very carefully and silently. So thank you very much.